Welcome to the Catastrophic Comeback Podcast with American injury lawyer Clark Speaks, helping you find hope, purpose, and joy after a catastrophic injury.
What is your background that allows you to have the skills and the experience to be able to effectively write these? Jeff has talked about all this information has to be condensed into 2 pages. It reminds me of a quote, I think this attributable to Abraham Lincoln. He says, I'm sorry that this letter was so long, I didn't have time to make it shorter, right? In other words, a shorter letter is sometimes much more, a shorter communication, especially in this day and age, is much more important and impactful than maybe something that's just that's longer. So what's your background first, and then tell me how that plays into what you do.
Well, I have a degree in journalism from Appalachian State. I've written a lot of sports articles for various publications, mostly online. And then I've been doing this for several years now. But I think having that background in journalism, not just having the experience writing, but writing different kinds of being trained in, hard news writing as opposed to more long form, as you mentioned. And a demand letter I would compare to kind of a hard news article is what we called it in journalism.
And hard news, what is that? Where you have to cite your sources?
Well, it's just what happened. It's not
opinion.
5,000 words on rambling about every type of way something could be spun, basically, and every opinion, like you mentioned. It is get to the point, say what happened, say the details that are relevant and that are key. But, like Jeff mentioned, don't make this a 10-page letter. I mean, they're going to go through the files and look at all of the, 50 pages or hundreds of pages of records. This is 1 to 2 pages, summarize the key issues, and present it in a professional manner, and I think that they will really appreciate that.
Okay, so when you're what do you do to try to approach? So one of the things that I find that's important in doing this type of work is to individualize a client, is to try to put myself in that client's shoes, and we do that a lot. We do that a lot when we're thinking about a case. We sort of collaborated on a case yesterday that I'm thinking about, and it was a case where somebody was very seriously injured in a case, and the defense is trying to minimize the impact of the case and the impact of the injury, and trying to dispute liability and trying to make it our guy's fault. And we really stopped and slowed down and kind of spent time, putting ourselves in that person's position. We kind of, for the action that led to the injury, backing up and slowing down and kind of going through the physical movements that he might have made preceding the injury. And then also subsequently, with respect to the treatment, the surgeries, and the even in terms of how he interacted with his family and his caring for his elderly father after this kinds of injuries. What are some of the things? How important is, or how do you put yourself in a client's position when you're writing a demand in order to be able to tell the full story about how a person was injured and how it's affected their lives and their family?
I think a lot of that goes back to the attorneys who document a lot of that information, kind of the before and after. Unfortunately, a lot of clients, due to medical issues, have difficulty sleeping, are struggling to work or just to perform normal daily activities, standing up, sitting down, playing with their kids, fixing dinner, cleaning the house. These are everyday issues that are necessary to document, again, it's the human side of the case. It's not just these files and there, you know, it is detailed language and it's technical language, but there is a human component. You're right. That's very important to document. It's the key to the case. And I think the attorneys do a really good job of documenting a lot of that on the front end so that when it gets to me, I've got a lot of that information and I'm able to include that throughout the letter.
Jeff, let me ask you this. In a catastrophic injury, a catastrophic accident where someone dies, or when someone has a permanent life-altering injury, fire, paralysis, loss of a limb, something really serious, how are those demands different, and how is the process of telling the client's story different in those contexts than in the traditional context?
Well, so there are similarities. It's different levels. Somebody that's hurt their back and neck, they can't pick up their 2-year-old. If they're a single mother, they can pick up their 2-year-old for 3 months, because until their back and neck get better. That's something that Cooper's trying to capture in these letters from the evidence that we're gathering and highlight those things. In a catastrophic case, it's, our client can't ever pick up her 2-year-old again, not for 2 or 3 months, but forever. And that is a life-changing incident. It's one thing to get somebody to come watch your 2-year-old or help you with things for a couple of months. It's another thing for the next 20 years or 18 years or whatever, until they become an adult. You're not going to be able to really do anything to help them because, if you're a quadriplegic, you can't move. If you're severely burned, you can't, do certain things. If you've got, multiple fractures and had to have a fusion surgery in your back, you can't pick up more than 5 pounds, more than a milk jug, for the rest of your life. And so, we're trying to get these clients the best treatment we can and get them as well as we can. But there are circumstances where people's injuries are just catastrophic and they're just terrible. And so what we're trying to do is help them physically, financially, emotionally to recover as well as they can. And so, when you're looking at a catastrophic injury, you're looking at something that is devastating on a global scale to this person and to their family, and sometimes for generations. Because if you take, let's say a father or mother who have children or maybe grandchildren, and now they're a quadriplegic, that's going to affect economically, emotionally, in a number of different ways. That's going to affect not only their kids, but their kids and their kids.
Generations.
For generations.
Well, so one of the things that I think about when you describe that is that the difference in the process from a catastrophic cases for other types of cases is, we want to condense it and we want to make it a short summary in your traditional case, because those adjusters might have hundreds of cases they got to get through, and they're just simply not going to read a 20-page letter detailing all these different things. And so we have to be much more efficient about our communication style. My experience with catastrophic cases is that all that goes out the window. You have different adjusters who focus exclusively on catastrophic cases. You have many times different insurance defense lawyers. Most of those are going to go into litigation if they're not already in litigation. And so those demand letters, in my experience, are much, much more detailed, much longer, include detailed and complex descriptions of the legal theories which are going to support I guess an ordinary demand would include the legal theory as well. But in terms of an industrial accident, references to our expert reports, references to the specific evidence that we have that shows why it is the fault of the company, the safety department, the safety manager, the corporation who prioritizes profits over people. So those letters, those demand letters, in my experience, are much longer, much more detailed, much more comprehensive, and in fact, we sort of use those in my experience as roadmaps, not just for the adjusters, but also for us to be able to plan our trial out from the moment those letters are generated.
Yeah, I remember us giving an opening statement in an industrial accident, a construction accident, where in the, going from a multiple page demand letter that gave extenuating injuries, this client was injured so badly that just to read the list of injuries for that client off of the demand letter took close to 10 minutes, which is hard to fathom. But it literally took almost 10 minutes just to read. It was page after page after page, hundreds of various injuries to this one person that we documented, and all that was laid out in the demand letter. And if you got a catastrophic case, there's no way to summarize a catastrophic case in 2 pages. We're doing that for brevity's sake because these adjusters are, on in most cases, because they're not going to read it if it's much longer. But in a catastrophic case, it's going, like you mentioned, it's going to a different adjuster who's more experienced, maybe an attorney, and they will take the time to read those because that's what they do. They handle catastrophic cases. And so you have particular adjusters that are experienced doing that. And so, you really need an experienced attorney on the other side that has done catastrophic cases to be able to be successful in those against these adjusters that do it all the time, and these insurance defense attorneys who.
Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.